Janis Joplin's story starts far away from the bright lights of Hollywood or the festival stages she'd one day dominate. She was born in 1943 in Port Arthur, Texas, a small oil town on the Gulf Coast. Growing up, Janis didn't fit in with the image of the polite, proper Southern girl her community seemed to expect. She liked to paint, read poetry, and wear men's shirts and blue jeans. She stood out, and in a place where conformity ruled, that wasn't easy. Kids at school teased her, called her names, and made her feel like an outsider. But that sense of being different would later become the source of her strength on stage. What gave her comfort as a teenager was music. She discovered the blues, artists like Bessie Smith and Lead Belly, and she felt something in their raw honesty. The way those singers turned pain into art resonated with her. She taught herself to sing along with them, copying their phrasing and power until she started developing her own sound. By the time she was in high school, Janis had a voice unlike anyone around her, loud, rough, and deeply emotional. It wasn't polished, but it had soul. Janis briefly went to college at the University of Texas at Austin, where she continued to stand out. She was bold, outspoken, and already known for carrying an auto harp and belting songs at parties. But her heart wasn't in classes. She wanted more, and she knew she wouldn't find it in Port Arthur or Austin. So she hitchhiked west in the early 1960s, landing in San Francisco at the exact moment the counterculture was starting to bloom. San Francisco in the mid-60s was a magnet for dreamers, artists, and misfits. Haight-Ashbury was filling up with musicians, poets, and people experimenting with new ways of living. Janis quickly found herself in the local music scene. She linked up with Chet Helms, a key promoter, who introduced her to a psychedelic rock band called Big Brother and the Holding Company. They needed a singer, and Janis, still rough around the edges but undeniably powerful, fit right in. With Big Brother, Janis began performing around San Francisco, building a reputation as a force of nature on stage. She wasn't just singing songs, she was pouring herself into them, screaming, crying, and laughing all in one performance. The turning point came in June 1967 at the Monterey Pop Festival. The band played Ball and Chain, and Janis's voice electrified the crowd. She screamed into the mic with a fury and passion nobody had seen before. Mama Cass, watching from the audience, famously mouthed, "Wow," as Janis finished the song. Overnight, she went from a local talent to a national sensation. After Monterey, Big Brother and the Holding Company released Cheap Thrills in 1968, with Janis front and center. The album included Piece of My Heart, which became a hit and a signature song for her. The album went to #1, and Janis was now one of the most famous rock singers in the country. But fame didn't sit easily with her. She loved the stage, but offstage she often felt lonely and insecure. She drank heavily, used drugs, and wrestled with the gap between the fearless persona she showed fans and the vulnerable person she felt she was. By late 1968, Janis left Big Brother to form her own group, the Cosmic Blues Band. She wanted more control over her sound and to move towards soul and rhythm and blues influences. She recorded "I Got Them Old Cosmic Blues Again, Mama" and performed at Woodstock in 1969. While the album had mixed reviews, her stage presence never failed to captivate audiences. She threw herself into her music, even when critics didn't fully understand her choices. In 1970, Janis formed another band, the Full Tilt Boogie Band, and seemed to be hitting her stride again. She was recording what would become her final album, Pearl. The sessions were smoother, the songs sharper, and she seemed more focused. Tracks like Cry Baby, Mercedes-Benz, and Me and Bobby McGee showed her range, not just screaming blues, but humor, storytelling, and vulnerability. People close to her later said she was happier in those months than she had been in years, but her struggles with drugs and alcohol never fully left. On October 4th, 1970, Janis didn't show up for a scheduled recording session at Sunset Sound Recorders in Hollywood. Her road manager went to check on her at the Landmark Motor Hotel, where she was staying. He found her lifeless on the floor of her room. She was holding cigarettes and loose change, as if she just returned from the hotel lobby vending machine. She was only 27 years old. The official report said she died from an accidental heroin overdose, with alcohol making things worse. Later investigations suggested that several overdoses had happened in Hollywood that same weekend from an unusually strong batch of heroin. Some friends, like Peggy Caserta, always believed there was more to it, that Janis's final moments didn't quite add up, but the details could never be fully explained. What was certain was that her voice was silenced too soon. 3 months later, Pearl was released, and it quickly went to #1. Me and Bobby McGee became a posthumous #1 single. Listening to that song now, it's hard not to hear it as a goodbye, though she never intended it that way. Her laugh in Mercedes-Benz, recorded just days before she died, feels like a ghost, joyful but fleeting. Janis's death placed her in what people call the 27 Club, alongside Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and later Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse. But the label doesn't capture her life. She wasn't just another tragic figure. She was a pioneer, one of the first women in rock to take center stage and command audiences with both strength and vulnerability. She showed that women could be raw, loud, messy, and brilliant, and still be artists of the highest order. Janis herself spoke often about feeling alone, even in front of thousands. One of her most famous quotes was, "On stage, I make love to 25,000 people. Then I go home alone." That sums up her paradox. She was adored by millions, but she still felt isolated. Yet in that isolation, she gave her audience something real, something lasting. Her story has been retold in documentaries, biographies, and films. Janis, Little Girl Blue, uses her personal letters to show her softer side, her longing for connection, and her deep insecurities. Family members like her brother Michael remind us that she never stopped searching for her own sound and her own place. She was always evolving, always pushing, even if it was messy. Today, more than 50 years after her passing, Janis Joplin's music still matters. Her voice, that raspy scream full of ache and joy, is instantly recognizable. Songs like Piece of My Heart, Cry Baby, and Me and Bobby McGee still play on radios, in movies, and on streaming platforms. Younger generations who never saw her live are still discovering her, still feeling the power she carried. Janis Joplin's life was short, but it burned bright. She came from a small town where she felt like an outsider, but she turned that pain into music that made millions feel understood. She wasn't perfect, she was human, and that humanity is exactly why people loved her and why they still do.